Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. Former President Trump thinks Mitch McConnell should resign if Joe Biden's Build Back Better bill gets passed. Nick Sandmann says Kyle Rittenhouse should sue the media for defamation, make them pay for misrepresenting him. Parents in Wisconsin are suing a school board for referring to their daughter as a boy without their consent, using a boy's name and male pronouns. And Senator Joe Manchin is still not on board with Biden's spending bill, even though Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer wants a vote by Christmas. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. Democrats are now working to get Biden's $1.75 trillion Build Back Better bill passed. It is a high-cost socialist policy bill Republicans have slammed. On Wednesday, former President Trump called on Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell to do everything in his power to stop the bill from becoming law, or McConnell should immediately resign. He vowed not to support any Republican in Congress who votes for the social spending bill. Trump has chided McConnell for being an ineffective leader and allowing the Democratic agenda to move forward. In August, McConnell and 18 other Senate Republicans voted in favor of Biden's $1 trillion infrastructure package, a key element of his presidency, which President Biden signed into law on Monday. To block passage of the bill, Trump has apparently turned up the pressure on McConnell, but that may not depend on Republicans. Democrats want to use reconciliation, a legislative strategy that would allow the bill to pass the Senate with a simple majority rather than a two-thirds majority. That would allow Democrats to bypass Republicans if they can bring a unified caucus together. It remains to be seen, however, whether Democrats can get all 50 of their senators to vote for the bill. Senator Joe Manchin said that he opposes parts of the package, including the price tag and passing it without bipartisan support. Senator Kyrsten Sinema also did not sign the bill. Without their support, Democrats would have to seek votes from 2 Republican senators, which seems unlikely. Despite criticism from Trump and other Republicans about voting for the Democrats' infrastructure package, McConnell stood by his vote. Trump also criticized Republicans for voting for a 2-month extension of the debt ceiling through December. McConnell had said he would not help to do so. Despite the support of top Democrats, including President Obama and House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn, victory was not in the cards for the Democratic candidate for mayor of Columbia, South Carolina. Republican candidate Daniel Rickenman, a businessman and Columbia councilman, defeated Democratic candidate Tamika Isaac Devine 52% to 48% Tuesday night. President Biden had won the county Columbia by nearly 40 points in 2020. In his victory speech, Rickenman said, "I'm just overwhelmed by all the support from the business community, the citizens of Columbia, the young people, and the old, a cross-section of people." Following Rickenman's victory over Devine, Senator Rick Scott, the head of the Senate GOP's re-election arm, noted that Columbia has been led by Democratic mayors for 30 years. Rickenman's victory is evidence of a growing red wave that could see Republicans retake the House in the 2022 midterm elections. Earlier this month in Virginia, Republican Glenn Youngkin, as we all know, defeated Democrat Terry McAuliffe in what some analysts say was a major victory for Republicans in a steadily blue state that hasn't had a Republican as governor in more than a decade. Biden won that state by 10 points last year. Youngkin's victory was aided by worried Virginia parents who were concerned about the CRT curriculum taught in public schools. James Carville, a longtime Democratic strategist who worked in the Clinton administration, said Democrats need to pull back from the brink of stupid wokeness or they will lose more elections. Republicans also won on Long Island, and Republican Jack Ciattarelli came close to defeating Democrat Governor Phil Murphy in New Jersey, also considered a solid blue state, which Biden won easily in 2020. According to Suffolk University polling data, Biden's approval rating currently stands at 37.8% and disapproval at 59%, a difference of more than 21 points. 46% say Biden is doing a worse job than expected, and 64% say they don't want Biden to run for re-election. Meanwhile, Democrats will have a tough time retaining their slim majority unless major changes occur before the November 8, 2022 midterms. The poll shows Republicans have a 46% to 38% advantage in the general vote. Kyle Rittenhouse's case is awaiting a jury's decision. But if anyone really understands the way Rittenhouse has been defamed by the media, it's former Covington Catholic High School student Nick Sandmann, because he was in a situation very similar with mainstream media's biased reporting. Sandman recently spoke out in clear support of Rittenhouse. He wrote in a column for the Daily Mail that from the start of the trial, Rittenhouse was almost immediately labeled a white supremacist and a domestic terrorist by the media. And to them, his red MAGA hat had clearly meant he was a racist. Sandman said that Rittenhouse was not given his day in court by his critics. The attacks on Rittenhouse came from the national news media, and they came quickly and without hesitation because Rittenhouse was an easy target and they could portray him any way they wanted. They saw these teens as targets they could smear any way they wanted without any consequences. Just like the current treatment of Rittenhouse, these leftist media outlets portrayed Sandman as an aggressor and a racist against Native Americans because he was wearing a MAGA hat. The way these media outlets demonized Sandman was toxic and untruthful. In January 2020, CNN settled a multi-million-dollar defamation lawsuit brought by Sandman over the liberal network's misrepresentation of a viral confrontation with a Native American that portrayed the Kentucky teen as the aggressor. CNN ultimately lost the case and chose to settle. One MSNBC guest compared Rittenhouse to a school shooter, while another said he was arguably a domestic terrorist. MSNBC's Joy Reid called him a vigilante, and Wisconsin Rep. Gwen Moore used the white supremacist phrase in a March interview with CNN. With the media constantly smearing Rittenhouse's name and the demoralizing effect it has had on him, many are beginning to raise the question of whether Rittenhouse should sue for defamation. It first depends on what happens in the trial, as those elements would come into play were he found guilty. However, if Rittenhouse is innocent, it would create an easier path for him to win. It's tough to win a defamation case, but the media should be held accountable for their actions. Sandman has shown that the media can be held accountable. Although he is not a lawyer, he has gained some experience with the ins and outs of defamation cases. He has experienced and can offer an educated guess as to the outcome should Rittenhouse file suit. Sandman said, "At this time, I would like to use my platform to let Kyle know that I am here for you, and if you ever would like to reach out to me, I am about the only person our age to have any idea of how the media is treating you. The way that media has treated you is terrible, and you don't have to face it alone." Judge Bruce Schroeder, who is presiding over the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, has been dealing with one distraction after another. From the prosecution deliberately hiding video evidence to the media's nonsense, Schroeder's job has become more difficult. He has expressed frustration at the grossly irresponsible and distorted media coverage, and it is certain that the legacy media has treated Rittenhouse and even Schroeder with malice. They led the way with various attacks on Schroeder himself, including his God Bless America ringtone, and of course, as always, the media threw out the big racist hatchet job. ABC deliberately covered up key testimony from Gage Grosskreutz in his coverage, a distortion of the facts that repositioned the whole case in the public eye. Indeed, where the media turns its lens, more damage to the truth is likely to follow. This was demonstrated not long ago by the research of the Harvard economist Roland Fryer, who set out to examine whether the police were really responsible for the death and destruction of black lives. The opposite was true. He found that the police actually saved lives. The real death and destruction of black lives occurred in riots that seem to have been deliberately and centrally instigated by the media. So the media was actually responsible for the violence and the deaths of black people. He found the modus operandi of mainstream media to be as follows. When they start covering an isolated incident, they deliberately stir up anger and villainize people or things they don't like, which is usually the police because it's the police's job to stop people from committing crimes in the first place through proactive policing. And once the media starts bashing the police, the politicians cave and join in. The police are then more timid about doing their jobs. In extreme cases, politicians will shut the police down and prevent them from doing any real work. And this leads to more violence as the police back off. In such cases, as Fryer found, no one suffers more than the minority communities. In the case of Rittenhouse, media outlets portrayed the trial as unfair and biased. The media's obfuscation of right and wrong effectively incited society to bring Rittenhouse, his defense lawyers, and Schroeder into disrepute, and they could have incited another riot or at least an act of violence against others. So Schroeder was right to do what he did. The media accustomed to falsification should stay out of court, or at least out of high-profile cases. Not only do they distort events, but they can also lead to further violence and damage. Democrats in the House reached an agreement to vote on the Build Back Better bill this week. But Senator Joe Manchin's latest comments will cause more outrage among those on the left. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi didn't bother to let the Senate comment on the text they were considering voting on in the House. She kept paid leave in the bill even though she knew Manchin was dead set against it. And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he wanted the Senate to pass the bill into law before Christmas. But will Manchin accept the package? Asked if he would do so in the Senate next month, Manchin said he had a lot of concerns about it. When he was told that the Biden administration's new lie that the bill would somehow reduce inflation, Manchin expressed skepticism. In fact, what sane person wouldn't be skeptical? Manchin said, "I really haven't heard any specifics on that one. They say it's going to lower inflation? I'll have to check on that one." It's clear that no matter what Pelosi does in the House, they still don't have Manchin's clear support. He's basically saying he can't control the timing, and while Schumer will schedule a vote before Christmas, that doesn't mean Manchin will vote on it. The Justice Department must address the growing public concern about increasing politicization, the department's watchdog has said in a new report. In the report, Inspector General Michael Horowitz notes that for years, the Justice Department has failed to follow policies and due processes designed to protect it from allegations that if it is politicized or partially applying the law. Such incidents have all raised questions about the department's objectivity and impartiality and have had a negative impact on the perceptions of the department as an impartial administration of justice. Critics on both the left and the right criticized the Justice Department's actions in recent years. In the Trump era, Democrats had repeatedly criticized the department, including for its fight to lower the sentence of Trump ally Roger Stone. And Republicans have also identified larger problems within the agency, particularly in handling of the Russia investigation, which relied heavily on the now discredited Steele dossier. This week, a whistleblower provided internal documents showing that the Justice Department used anti-terrorism tools on parents, sparking a strong new reaction. In a statement, parents concerned about their children's education said, "The documents prove that the FBI is in fact using anti-terrorism tools to investigate concerned parents who attend school board meetings in direct contradiction to Attorney General Merrick Garland's sworn testimony before Congress." Senator Chuck Grassley, the ranking Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, said there has been a dark cloud hanging over the Justice Department's credibility for years. From the Hillary Clinton email investigation to the Russia probe, and the targeting of parents exercising their First Amendment rights at the school board meetings, it has failed to bolster public confidence in the Justice Department's apolitical nature. The Inspector General's assessment appears to be correct, he wrote. Horowitz added, "I hope the department and its components like the FBI begin turning a corner to regain some of their previous nonpartisan, beyond reproach reputations." He said he needs testimonial subpoena power and the ability to independently investigate attorney misconduct. Both of these things would go a long way towards ensuring that the FBI and the corrupt elements of the department are actually held accountable. Two parents have filed a lawsuit against the Kettle Moraine School District outside of Waukesha, Wisconsin, complaining about the district's policy allowing students to change their names and pronouns without parental consent. One couple withdrew their 12-year-old daughter from school because the school routinely used male names and male pronouns to refer to her without parental consent and over the objections of her parents. A second couple joined the lawsuit out of general opposition to the policy. Kate Anderson, senior counsel for the Alliance Defending Freedom and director of the Center for Parental Rights, which along with the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is representing the parents in this case. The parents in this case know and love their daughter and are doing their best to get her the expert care she needs in her struggling with anxiety and depression, Anderson said. "We are asking the court to respect the serious concerns of these parents and to ensure that the Kettle Moraine School District swiftly changes its policies that undermine parents and harm children." Before filing the lawsuit, the center wrote to the school district on behalf of the parents, asking the district to change its policies that require parental consent before referring to students by their preferred names or pronouns. The school district did not respond, which prompted the lawsuit. The Kettle Moraine School District's policy mirrors similar policies adopted across the country in recent years, in which teachers and administrators have agreed to student requests to change names or pronouns without notifying parents, and in some cases have actively concealed the situation from parents. As journalist Abigail Schreier documents in her recent book, irreversible damage, such policies are often driven by proponents of gender ideology working in educational institutions who believe that parents will not adequately support transgender children and must therefore exclude them from the situation altogether. This conclusion leads to placing the judgment of the school above that of the parents. Kate Anderson told the Daily Signal that such policies are inherently harmful because they allow schools to encourage children to begin the transition to a gender identity that does not align with their biological sex. Anderson added that teachers and administrators don't inform parents of their children's decision, and they lie to them. When schools prevent parents from getting basic information about their child's health care, it prevents parents from doing what's best for their children. Parents have every right under the Constitution to direct their child's development. It is really hard to understand that these taxpayer-created public schools are not focusing their energies on children's learning, but instead actively fuss over gender issues and implement such destructive anti-human policies on children. And that's it for today, my friends. Check out the playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me in the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on Newmaker, Gab, Parler, and Getter. Now don't forget, please sign up to the email list so that we can stay in touch. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.